Okay, let us start class. I hope we'll have some more students joining up. Let us start. So the reason we all are today here for this next online class, we will have a quick review of the sixth unit, which is your deep learning and CNN. So I'll share my screen and okay. So can you all see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let us get started, class. Okay, so going down to the last unit of our syllabus, if at all of you must have seen, there is a assignment which is uploaded, which is based on, which also includes numericals from this bit, which is CNN. So before we start with this unit and details of CNN, I would like to acknowledge Dr. Mitesh Khapra from IITM, who has taken this NPTEL Deep Learning course. And the entire material that we will be discussing today, I have referred his notes and his lecture material. So before starting the lecture, I like to acknowledge him. Okay, so just give me a minute. Fine. So here we start. Okay. So do let me know at any point of time if things are not clear. Let us start. All the initial units of our course, which is nothing but machine learning, our focus, our attention was on decision trees, regression technique, neural networks, or backpropagation algorithm, SVM, RFPN, or maybe SOFM. Everything that we have studied, if we give it a thought, it has always been a typical pattern recognition approach. Let it be supervised or unsupervised for that matter. So if at all I have to consider pattern recognition, a typical approach, I am given an object. I go by a traditional approach where I segment it and I extract the features and I work on a classifier. So if I have to go for a slightly advanced approach, the job is I go for high level features, I go for mid level features, and I try and ultimately go for okay, I was looking for a mouse and, okay, so we go sorry, a typical approach, we go for a feature extractor and then maybe some higher level or lower level features and then ultimately classifier. But then finally when we come to this advanced approach of CNN, it is nothing but it involves everything together. We do not have to explicitly go for extracting the features and then segregate them as middle level or high level and then to classifier. So this is entirely taken care of by the neural network. So if I have to take one more example, you see an image on the slide, and what I do is I do extract the pixels, I do use the features, and using the features I categorize it either as a car, bus, monument, or flower. So if these are the classes that I have, which is car, bus, monument, or flower, I go for shape based features. So when it comes to shape, if you see on the screen, I do all I do is I use some edge detectors. And then there was an era of using SIFT and HOG, which is histogram of gradients, and shift invariant feature transform. And this is all that was routinely done. So if at all you give a thorough look to the slide, there are two things that I want you to note. Learning weights of classifier is all that we did, and the job of extracting the features was done um, on purpose. It was handcrafted. It was done as a conscious choice. We had to worry about the features, and the learning part was only done by the classifier. But now when I mean, this is what was a typical machine learning approach. We have already seen that deep learning is nothing but a subset of machine learning. But then how does it stand apart or stand stirred in this era? Because what we do in deep learning is, instead of using this handcrafted features, we also learn the features automatically. So if you see this slide here, if you see the slide, the role of learning is no more restricted only to the classifier. It is also taken care of in the features. So I also learn the weights and I also learn the classifiers. So the learning of the features is also automatically done. If you try to map it to the learning which a human being has, it is not always that features are explicitly told. You give kids, let us say you have kids playing somewhere, let us say anywhere in a um, anywhere on a playground, and these kids, they are given balls of various colors, or maybe toys of various shapes, and then you ask them to separate it out. So it will be very surprising that some kids will end up only taking colors as a group, some may take shape as a group. The idea, the fundamental bottom line idea is not always we teach the features, and this is exactly what is exploited in deep learning. And that is the reason um, learning is deep. Deep in means it is in depth, because when I give the features, the classes are restricted. Uh, they are, let's say it's kids, so they do not have any pre-knowledge, and I ask them to, let us say, group it only by color. They know the colors, let's assume. So they are only going to come up with fixed classes. But on the contrary, when I leave it to their discretion to group it, they will do it based maybe on colors, maybe based on shapes, maybe based on what for the toys are used, like indoor toys, outdoor toys. So the classes will be a variety of classes. And what we are doing exactly is, I have no restriction on the features. I am using a variety of features. Now this exactly is the deepest core concept of deep learning, wherein we learn the features as well along with the classifiers. So uh, earlier in machine learning, features was done handcrafted. Handcrafted means features were decided. But now when we come to CNN, we leave it to the to our network to learn the features and extract it, and to decide which are the best features and to use them at the highest level. So this basically is the key concept between deep learning and machine learning. So I will unmute all of you and I would like to hear your comments. Is this part clear, everybody? Yes, all of you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we have always seen it and discussed it in our class as well. But what I wanted you to understand is what actually is the role of features and what is the idea of using this deep learning concept. Is that clear, class? Should we go ahead?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Yes.
So let us go ahead. I'll again share the screen, and we were here. Okay, so let's start. Let's go ahead. Okay, so the idea in deep learning is, instead of using hard crafted kernels, is nothing but filters. Filters is nothing but the entity that I am using to extract the features. So instead of handcrafting the kernels, we also go for finding out various kernels. And then on the top of it, as it is very clearly written on the screen, why to restrict only to one kernel or one feature? As I did tell, when a variety of toys is given, why to restrict only to color? Even shape can be a feature. Even where it can be played is a feature. Number of kids that can get involved with that game is also a feature. So I can have various features and I can classify them. So this actually is nothing but your deep learning. So now if you see in this particular image, you see the image of Taj Mahal, and you see at least 3 kernels that are being used. So these are the 3 kernels that are used, where I'm using 3 set of features. Maybe the most important or the prominent or the highest level feature could be shape, which you see on the first matrix here. And then I'll have a variety of features being used on this image, and that is exactly what we are doing in deep learning. And then again, why to just stop there? Why not I have multiple such layers? So the first layer here learns some features, and then it is again detailed in the second layer, and so on and so on and so on. So such a network is basically called as a convolutional neural network. Please understand, it is still a neural network. We can map it lightly on a lighter note to a fully connected network. Mind well, this is not fully connected. You'll understand it as we go further, but it is still a neural network where I'm doing an operation of convolution. So as we proceed, you'll also understand why am I calling it as convolution and what exactly is happening here. First thing, we have understood how is CNN different from machine learning. So I'm working not only on classifier, even features are being taken care of, and not just one feature, multiple features, and then multiple such layers of features. So that is what makes it deep. Deep is layers of features. So you extract a feature, you learn something which becomes a high level feature in the next layer. If it doesn't contribute, it automatically gets subsided, and finally you have classifier. So how is it different from a feed forward network? Now, taking a typical example, let us say you see this character, not character, digit 2, which is to be classified, and let us say this input um, I I break it up, or I sample it as 4 by 4. So if you see here in feed forward network, if you see these red boxes, this is nothing but your 16 inputs, because if I'm treating it as a 4 by 4 matrix, I'll have 16 inputs. These 16 inputs are given. The blue boxes that you see, there can be as many as hidden layers, and the green boxes that you see is nothing but the classes. So because it is digit, as you see on the screen, you'll have 10 classes, 0 to 9. So what is happening in a feed forward network? In feed forward network, a fully connected feed forward network, each and every neuron in the previous layer is connected to the neuron in the next layer. So it becomes, the connections are very dense. The connections are very dense. And if you look at this image now, take a careful look at the image, you know that the first pixel, which is white, is hardly contributing in the decision making. But even the red box corresponding to that pixel, we have to assign the weights. Moment we have assigned the weights, we have to update it. We have to update it, we have to reapply it, we have to find a delta. So we are connecting each and every node to the previous node, but many a times it may not be needed, because if I have to distinguish between 2 and 4, I may not actually need the pixels which are on the boundary. So this, if I name these pixels as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So pixel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 12, and then the last line of 13, 14, 15, 16. These pixels actually may not be useful at all. They're not giving me any information. But what happens in a feed forward network is I end up even connecting them, which makes the connection very dense. And moment it is connected, all the 3 phases which we have earlier discussed, which is nothing but your forward phase, calculating error, and then updating it, propagating it back, we have to work all on it. So feed forward, it is a very dense connection. On the contrary, when I go to a CNN network, what is it that I do? I would again like to bring your attention to the same matrix that I have. You see this red color, it is nothing but a 2 by 2 matrix. And what I do here, this operation will be all the more clear as we proceed further. But here I want you to understand that the connections matter a lot. So if you take a look here, the connections are relatively very sparse. So what exactly is being done? The input I still have 4 by 4, but if you see this all red dots, a 2 by 2 matrix, I find out what is the maximum pixel, and that is what I write. So if you see the connection, it is pixel number 1, 2, 5 and 6 which goes in the next layer. Instead of all the pixels, I have 1, 2, 5 and 6 which go to the next layer. Similarly, I move the mask like a filtering operation. I move the mask to the next position by 2 blocks. And then what do we see is, it is just the pixel 3, 4, 7 and 8 which go to the next layer. So what is happening in this particular thing is that when I talk about CNN, the connections are very less, and eventually the pixels which will contribute will be given weightage on. So this is how a feed forward network, it stands different from a neural network. So if you have to speak about a comparison, first point is the connections are very dense in feed forward network, jabki when it comes to CNN, it is relatively sparse. And the second benefit is weight sharing, which will be very clear later on. But at this moment, you need to understand the difference between a feed forward and a CNN network. Now, this operation may not be very clear right now, but as we proceed, it will be very clear. So, till this part, is everything properly understood? I stop sharing the screen, and then I again
Yes,
would
ma'am.
like to hear from all of you. So, all of you,
Yes,
we
ma'am.
did,
No problem.
yeah, we did
Yes, ma'am.
only see 2 points as of now, understanding the difference between ML and DL. And then what next we have seen is, we were trying to understand the difference between a feed forward network and CNN.
Yeah.
Two key points that we all must remember, these two key points are connections are relatively sparse and some concept of weight sharing, which I'll tell you what it is. So let's go ahead now and see, let's come down to the general terms which are involved in CNN. The first operation, as the name indicates, it is convolution, and all of us are, I think I should mute all the participants, mute all, okay, yeah. Am I audible, everyone? Okay, so let's start. All of you, general operations involved. The first operation is convolution, which all of you are familiar of. I'm sure all of you remember DIP and the various matrices, the masks that we have seen, averaging and Laplacian and edge detector, horizontal edges, vertical edges, all those masks. So I don't have to spend a lot of time here on this slide. In fact, I choose to spend more time on the next slide because that is how convolution differs when it comes to CNN. What we were doing here, if you remember, is the center pixel, like in this particular diagram, which is -8 for detecting the edges. So if you remember, we have always taken masks of odd size, like 3 by 3, 5 by 5. And we did choose to keep the center, and then it was the center pixel which was getting which was being operated on or which was getting affected. Now, when it comes to CNN, the the convolution operation that is carried out, I directly start with 2D convolution. And what I want you to understand here is, I want you to focus on the size of the input image. So if you see the first diagram, it is a 3 by 4 image that has been taken. Please understand, please mark, the kernels that I choose here are always square. Now, this is not a binding, or it is not a compulsive act, but then for the ease of implementation, the way we always took odd masses when it came to DIP, here we are always taking even one. So have your attention on the first matrix, and now you can relate it to the diagram which we have seen earlier. So you have this input which is 3 by 4, and you have a kernel which is 2 by 2. I place the kernel on the first location to overlap the first position of the input, and the operation that happens is convolution. So you do see A into W plus B into X plus C into Y, sorry, not C into Y, E into Y and F into Z. Now I roll the mask to the next position. So if you see the second window here, it is again the mask operation, the convolution operation that I do with the mask. B into W, C into X, F into Y, and G into Z. I proceed in the same way, even with the last thing. I proceed with all the pixels, and the final image that I get is here. I want all of you to have a keen look on the last box which is being displayed on this slide. Please understand, input, it was like 3 by 4, everyone, which now has reduced to 2 by 3. So moment I am applying a kernel on an image, which in our DIP we used to call it as a mask. Okay, I'm doing the same thing here, the same convolution operation, but the input now reduces to 2 by 3. All of you, 2D image when being kerneled using a mask or using a kernel, the result is also 2D, but the size has decreased. Is that okay? Please understand, I am not considering zero padding. We'll have it on our next slide immediately. But as of now, the first thing to note is that when I am convolving it with a kernel, the size is changing. So here I have 12 pixels. On the contrary, here I just have 6 of them. So is this clear, everyone? Yes, all of you. Did you mark this? Yes, class. I'm
Yes.
waiting to hear from you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so did you get it? Okay,
Yes.
let's
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, okay, let us go ahead, and now let us have a look at 3D convolution. See, 2D image convolved, result was 2D. I want you to understand on a very keen way that a 3D image when convolved, the result is again 2D. Let us walk through these examples and make it clear. Class, do you see mouse? Class, do you see mouse? Because I don't know, I know shown something problem on my screen. Yes, class, do you see mouse?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so good. So let us start. Share and PPT here. Okay, so let us see the, let us understand it. I have a RGB image, this image that you see, and this small thing which is being shown is a filter that I am using. Now let us traverse it through. I place an image. Okay, okay. So I place the kernel here. Please understand the depth of the kernel is same as the depth of the image. Are you getting it? Okay. So the kernel's depth and the image depth is same. So if you observe it, I am only moving my kernel along the width and along the height. So this is the position of my kernel. Okay, I operate it here. I find one value which I write it here. Let us say let us say I'm doing some operation wherein I'm finding it out as a max filter. Let us assume it in that way. So the depth of the kernel is also the same. Okay, and that one value I am writing here. Similarly, I move this kernel now along its width, and then this depth of the kernel and the image is same. I'll write the next value. I move it along the width any still further, I get a value. I take it to the extreme right, so I get a value. So what have I done here? I had this filter whose depth is same. Forget the operation that is being done. Just remember that the depth is also same. So let us understand that I am actually moving the filter only in along the width and then along the height. So it was moved along the width. Now I start with along the height. I move along the width, I come down to the next row and I do it along the width. So the most important thing that you need to remember here is, whenever the size of the filter and the size of the image is same, and I'm performing this 3D operation, I'm performing convolution operation on a 3D input, the output that I get will always be 2D. Did you mark this? Because the filter, I repeat, I'm only moving it along the width and the height. Let us say I'm doing averaging operation. The depth of the filter is same as the depth of the image. So I'm not moving the filter in, to G plane or to B plane. It's not needed, because even this filter is having depth of 3. So I just move it along the width and along the height and I get 2D. I kept it here, I got 1 point. I moved it next, I got 1 point. So what I'm going to get, the resultant output will be 2D. Input is 3D, output is 2D. In the earlier case, input was 2D, output still was 2D. In the next case, input is 3D, but the output is also is 2D. So please remember that we are actually doing 2D convolution on a 3D image. Filter moves along the height and the width, but not along the depth. So as a result of this, the output will always be 2-dimensional. The output here will only have height and width. That is all the output will have. So this is the concept which we are going to need during problem solving, all of you. So is this very clearly understood? Yes, class. Are you all with me? Did you get this point? Okay.
Ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let us go ahead now. Moving down to the next point. Now, all the problems or the calculations that you have are based on this relation between input size, output size, and filter size. So we did see this earlier. This part we have already seen. Like, this is the input that I have. Let us assume this is a 7 by 7 input. Now this input I have, I'm rolling it using a mask which is 3 by 3. Sorry, I'm rolling it with a mask which is shown in blue here, which is 5 by 5. So the size of my kernel is 5 by 5 and the size of my input is 7 by 7. Now I want you to imagine that as I roll this mask further, the final output that I get will always be just 3 by 3. Let us do it together. Okay, understand that there is no zero padding as of now introduced. So this is the blue mask that you have. So let us assume I'm taking averaging or any operation, and this operation I write it, the resultant I write it here. I move it along the width, I take it to the next pixel. Oh, who is entertaining us this well? Okay. Still, I don't know even if, okay. Now I move it to the next pixel. Class, please take care. Mute yourself. I don't know why isn't it working here. Okay, I move it to the next pixel. Class, next pixel I get this value. I move it to the next position. I get this value. Now I do not have any scope of moving it any further. So this is all where I end, where it ends. Okay, yeah. So please understand, I cannot proceed beyond this. Okay, so this is all that I have. So the image was 7 by 7. I'm using a mask of 5 by 5. Now similarly, I can even take it horizontally. This row is over. Now I go to the next row. I can go to next row. I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my mask position or my kernel will be here. I can go to the next row, but then that's all I can go. I cannot go to the fourth row because my image size doesn't fit in. So please understand that when input is 7 by 7, and if my kernel, let us say, is 5 by 5, the output that I get is 3 by 3. Is that clear? So I can write a equation for this. Let us say this is W2 and let us say this is W1. So whatever is W2 and H2, width and height of the new image, we can relate it using we can relate it using this mask size. We can find out. So if this was, let us say, 3 by 3, I could have had more. I could have had a bigger output. If it was 3 by 3, let us say 1, 2, 3, I could have still been able to place it here, 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 and here. So I could have had an output which is 5 by 5. So there is always a relation. We are now going to try and find out the relation between the input and this and the output. So we will see which are the factors that matter. So do you understand that input size, output size, and the filter size? So it is the filter size which will decide the output. Output will depend on the input as well as on the filter size. So here, everyone. Okay. Now please understand, I'm running out of time, so I'll reschedule them. I'll host another meeting immediately. You please stay tuned with Shreya. She'll send you the code. We just have few more slides to go through.